Hello, welcome to the video on monopolistic competition. Here are the learning objectives for this topic. So we've come to the third market structure in this list. And here are the characteristics of a market so that you can recognize one when you see one. So they are that there must be many sellers or firms in the industry, but it is different from perfect competition in that each firm produces a similar but not identical product. That means that these products are heterogeneous, or we can say that they are differentiated from one another. They're not different, they are differentiated. Now, there are many buyers of this product, there is perfect knowledge, and that there are no barriers to entry or exit from the industry. That means there's freedom of entry or exit, just like perfect competition. So you can see from the spectrum here, monopolistic competition is much nearer to perfect competition than it is to monopoly. So that's why it's got more in common with perfect competition. But it has got a little bit of monopolistic element, hence its name, monopolistic competition. Right, so the part where it's like a monopoly is in its product. It's not identical. There is some difference, but not much. So for example, like this, hair shampoo. You can see that there are many hair shampoo. So this is the industry for hair shampoo, and each one is a differentiated product. They're still basically shampoos, but there are differences that you can tell apart. Right, toothpaste, cup noodles, and there are lots more. So, what are the implications of those characteristics? Now, since each firm produces a good that is slightly different from that of its competitors, differentiated, then each firm has many close substitutes. Now, each firm has a small degree of market power, which means it is able to set prices above its marginal cost, but not as much as a monopoly. So because it's got some degree of market power, that means its demand curve would not be horizontal. It will be downward sloping. It's got many substitutes, so we expect the demand curve to be more elastic than that of a monopoly. But it is downward sloping, which means that when it wants to sell one extra unit of the good, it would have to lower the price of its product. Now, in this case, because the product is differentiated, it would be beneficial for the monopolistically competitive firm to advertise its product. It is not beneficial for perfect competition because your product would be identical to your competitor's product. So if you spend money advertising, you're not just advertising for yourself, you could be advertising for your rival because they have exactly the same product. A monopoly would have much less reason to advertise unless it wants to increase its number of customers, but it's got no competitors, so their reason for advertising is limited. Whereas for monopolistic competition, advertising becomes a tool to differentiate themselves even further in the minds of their customers. If their customers think that their product is special because of all that advertising saying so, then demand for their product will become less elastic, and when demand becomes less elastic, then they would be able to have more market power to set their price away from their cost of production. So advertising can be beneficial that way. So one of the characteristics is that the monopolistically competitive market has freedom of entry or exit from the industry, which means that if any firm has got supernormal profit, it will attract other firms to enter and produce something like that, which means that it would not be able to enjoy supernormal profit for long. In the long run, the firms would only enjoy normal profits. That means it would only break even in the long run. And that is similar to perfect competition. So let's start with this, right? So the firm faces a downward sloping demand curve, and therefore we are going to use the simple case, single price. So its marginal revenue curve is below the downward sloping demand curve at twice the slope. So you can see that this diagram is just like that drawn for monopoly. Yes, you can draw the same type of diagram. You just have to know that the demand here would be relatively elastic compared with that of a monopoly. And that's the main difference here, right? So a profit maximizing firm would want to produce where MR equals to MC, that's given by point A. So it indicates that the profit maximizing output level is Q1, and the profit maximizing price would be P1, indicated by point B on the demand curve. Right, so when this happens, you can see that the average total cost of producing this output level Q1 is below the price, and therefore this firm would be able to get supernormal profit. Now this supernormal profit, that shaded area in the diagram, would only exist in the short run, because in the long run, firms would be attracted to enter this industry and produce a close substitute to this firm's product. Right? So when that happens, when firms enter to produce close substitutes, it means that the variety of the product that is available for customers to choose has increased. And for the same customer base, now that they have more to choose from, some of the customers of this firm could go and try out the new product, and therefore, when more firms enter the industry, demand for these incumbent firms' products tend to fall, and that would shift the demand curve and its MR curve together inwards, right? Until the supernormal profit disappears and only normal profits remain in long-run equilibrium. So this is different from perfect competition. In perfect competition, there is a supply curve, but in monopolistic competition, there is no supply curve, right? A supply curve means that everyone produces the same product, so you can see how all the firms can collectively contribute to the same quantity of the same good. But in this case, each product is a little bit different. So there is no supply curve for the market as a whole, right? So in this case, we find that when the more firms enter the industry, it is the demand curve that will shift, not the supply curve. So the demand curve will shift inwards and the MR will follow. In the end, it will look like this, right? The demand curve would fall, so the highest price that can be charged would fall until in the long run, the demand curve is just tangent to the ATC curve at the profit maximizing output level. So at that tangent point, it means that the price given by the demand curve at that point D is equal to the average total cost given by the ATC curve at that same point. So here I show it to you side by side so you can see the difference between short run supernormal profit and long run normal profits only. Now, the same analysis in reverse would happen if the firm experienced supernormal loss in the short run. That means the ATC curve is above the demand curve. So at the profit maximizing output level, there is supernormal loss. If there's supernormal loss, then that would be only a short run phenomenon as well. Because if there's supernormal loss, eventually some firms would want to leave the industry. And then when firms start leaving the industry because of the supernormal loss, then what happens to their customers? Their customers will now come to this firm that is still existing in the market. So existing firms' demand would increase, and the demand curve together with its MR curve would tend to shift outwards. And when the demand curve shifts outwards, it means that the price that they can charge would tend to rise. And when that happens, the loss that they experienced previously would tend to shrink, and it will carry on repeating itself until we get to the long run normal profit situation, like in this diagram on the right hand side. Long run normal profit only. Right. One thing to note about a monopolistically competitive firm is that there is excess capacity. Excess capacity means that the firm's output level is not at the efficient scale. I hope you remember efficient scale. Efficient scale is the name of the output level where average total cost is minimized. Right, so minimum efficient scale, I put MES over there. Right. So that's the output level at the minimum point of the ATC curve. That is where MC curve cuts. So where the MC curve cuts the ATC curve, that's the minimum point of the ATC curve. So the output level where that happens is the minimum efficient scale. Right, so the output level produced by the monopolistically competitive firm is Q2 in long run equilibrium. We're not talking about short run, because short run equilibrium is not sustainable. It will change. So long run equilibrium is the one that we want to refer to. So long run equilibrium output level is Q2, right? And it's stable there because it's a long run equilibrium. So at Q2, you'll find that it's less than the efficient scale. So the difference between the efficient scale and the market output level Q2, the difference, it means QMES minus Q2, that's the amount of excess capacity. And that exists for firms in this situation. You'll find that firms in perfect competition, they are producing at the long run at the minimum point of the ATC. So they are producing the output level that is equal to the efficient scale. So for perfect competition, the firms do not have excess capacity, whereas firms in monopolistic competition, they do. And the reason for that is because the price is above the marginal cost. They have some form of price markup, you see. So what about efficiency concerns? Implications on welfare? Well, it will be similar to that of a monopoly. Right. The optimal, the socially optimal, the socially efficient, allocative efficient output level is Q opt. Please do not confuse the efficient output level with the efficient scale. They are not necessarily the same thing. So in this case, the efficient output level, the optimal output level, that indicates that resources are allocated efficiently is Q opt. That is where social marginal cost given by the MC curve is equal to the social marginal benefit given by the demand curve. So where the demand curve intersects the MC curve, that is the point that indicates the optimum output level. Now you can see from here, the long run equilibrium output level of this firm is Q2, which is not the allocative efficient output level. It's below that. Therefore, there must be deadweight loss. And the deadweight loss is indicated there. Consumer surplus is the area above the price, below the demand curve. And then the producer surplus is the area above the MC curve, the cost of production, and below the price that the producers get. So for that, it is similar to monopoly.